All right. You guys see my
Fantastic.
screen?
We can. Thank
Hello,
you.
everybody. How we doing today? Can't really talk back because it's a webinar, but feel free to chat, y'all. We're gonna try to make this as interactive as you can within the confines of Zoom. Okay, so let's jump in. I'm excited to talk to you today about how to define a winning product strategy. And I see we have over 80 product people here today. That's exciting. It's rare that we're also busy as PMs. It's rare to get so many together. So I want to start off with a nugget of wisdom that a lot of you may not know, and that is the product manager's motto. Now, it's a bit like Spider-Man's motto. Do we have anybody out there, any Marvel fans, can help me in the chat with what Spider-Man's motto is? I'm gonna check the nerd factor here, see what we got. Anybody? I know it's quick to type it. There you go, CJ, thanks for saving us. Everybody's got it there. CJ, Mike, Kayla, yeah. Spider-Man's motto is, with great power comes great responsibility. And I share that because the product manager motto, it's similar, it's just a little different. And it's, with great responsibility comes no power. And usually in a live audience, we get a few giggles and laughs, and we're laughing on the outside, but we're crying on the inside, right? Why do we have to like beg, borrow, and plead and try to persuade people to do everything, right? One of the things that we're responsible for a lot of things, is, figuring out product market fit. And a key part of that is figuring out the product strategy. And that's why I wrote my book, The Lean Product Playbook. It's basically a guide on how to achieve product market fit. And I want to share with you the advice in there about how to define a winning product strategy. And it all starts with the product market fit pyramid, which is a model for how to think about product market fit that has 5 layers. And like a real pyramid, the idea is each layer builds on the layers beneath it. The bottom layer is target customer. Everything should start with, whose life are we trying to make better? Whose pain points are we trying to address, right? That's basically what we should be doing. And the next layer up from that is, for that customer, what are their underserved needs, right? We want to focus on needs, not solutions. We're going to talk about that more in a sec. And underserved is another important word I don't have time to cover today, but I covered it in some of my other talks. But taken together, these 2 layers are the market. And that's basically who we're trying to go after. And what we control are the 3 product decisions: a value proposition. In an ideal world, this maps directly with the underserved needs that the market wants. The next layer up from that is feature set, which is the functionality that we're going to build. And the final layer is user experience. And product market fit is just, okay, we're going after this market with this set of product hypotheses. Product market fit is just how well do they resonate with the market. And product strategy, I just want to frame kind of where product strategy fit. It basically fits squarely in the value proposition. How are we going to be better or different than the competition? How are we going to create more value for customers? And when we create our product strategy, far too often teams or companies, they focus on features, right? Everyone has featureitis. It's this feature, this feature, this feature. Sales teams is selling features, right? It's all solutions. And so you may have heard of the term problem space versus solution space. I've been talking about that concept for a while. I'm really excited to hear more people talking about it, out there in the product world. So let me just explain it real quick. Problem space is basically a customer problem, need, or benefit that the product should address, right? If I said, hey, I want to make it easier to share photos with your friends, that's a problem space statement. I haven't said how I'm going to solve it. I just explained what I want to do. And I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the user story template. As a blank type of user, I want to be able to do blank so I can enjoy blank benefit. That last part, so I can, that's the essence of the problem space, right? That's what it's really all about, is why is this going to create value for a user or customer? Now, in contrast, solution space is a specific implementation or design to address the need. So again, if I said, hey, I want to make it easier to share photos with your friends, that would be in the problem space. If the very next thing I said was, oh yeah, and I just launched an app in the App Store that makes it easy to share photos with your friends, that app would be in the solution space, right? Because it's the app. So now we have actual solution. Or if I hadn't done any coding yet, but my friend Mike was a designer, and Mike gave me a set of mock-ups, right, for the app, that set of mock-ups would be in the solution space. So that's the idea. Solution space is a specific, implementation, product, or design, and problem space is kind of more the abstract customer need or problem that we're trying to address. Let me just illustrate this concept, and then we'll jump into product strategy, right? I worked it into it for a while. One of our popular products is TurboTax. Some of you may have used it in the last several months. The deadline was mid-May for filing this year, those of you in the United States. It's a software product, so it's in the solution space. It competes with another solution space product, TaxCut. And what you want to do, we can map between problem space and solution space. Usually you want to start in problem space and then map and say, great, we want to help people. What can we do, right? So we can identify what is basically the overall benefit that TurboTax helps people with. It helps you prepare your taxes. Now, what I'd love to see if anyone out there is a TurboTax user, could you chat in the chat what benefits, why does it create value for you? Let's see what people can come up with for why it creates value for you, those people that have used it before. I'll keep going while we wait for people's answers here, right? So this is fun. This is a fun part where you want to do what I call exploring the problem space, right? Given that we kind of had defined the market opportunity as helping people with their taxes, let's get more detailed. What are all the different things that we can do, right, for people? And I see a lot of great answers here. Make taxes faster, saves me money, simplicity, fast, and can do it from home, eliminates errors, easy, user-friendly, less paperwork. Exactly, awesome. So you guys have a lot of great problem space statements there too, right? So let's imagine we were on the TurboTax team. We'd want to explore all the different brainstorm, all the different ideas like you guys are doing. We might come up with things like, hey, it can check my taxes compared to pen and paper. It can file my taxes for me. It can maximize my deductions. It can reduce my audit risk. These are just 4 distinct benefit statements. There are several others that people have put here, in the chat. So I appreciate that, right? And so what you want to do is, well, step 1 is identify the market opportunity and then brainstorm these problem space statements, right? Now you'll notice they actually all start with a verb. That's a good tip to write good problem space statements because it makes you clarify what's the product doing to create value for the user. And secondly, they're written from the user's perspective, right? My taxes, my deductions, my audit risk, right? And when you do it, it's kind of messy. I got a lot of different answers in the chat here, but you eventually, after you brainstorm it, then you want to try to make a little bit of sense of it and try to organize it. And it is a little messy. The problem space is messy, but you will find some organization in it. Now, the way that organization usually works is you might have 3 benefits. Let's take these 3. Help me prepare my taxes, reduce my audit risk, and check my returns. That at this level, they are distinct. This is what I call atomic benefits. At this level, they are distinct. But if I, in my customer discovery interview, say, hey, can you tell me why is it important that it reduces your audit risk? Why is it important that it checks your return? I might find that, each time I ask why, I'm getting the customer to try to go up 1 level to a bigger picture benefit, right? And we actually envision it as a ladder. It's called the benefit ladder, where the first answer the customer gives you is the bottom rung of the ladder. And each time you ask why, you're getting them to kind of climb up the ladder. So we might find that even those these 3 benefits sound the same or similar or sound distinct, they're actually on the same benefit ladder of empowerment and confidence. And the way that would go is, hey, before TurboTax, I did my taxes by hand. I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't know the tax law. I'm not good with numbers. But then I used TurboTax and, it was just a lot easier and I felt a lot more empowered and confident in my taxes. That's a benefit ladder, a distinct benefit ladder. A second benefit ladder has nothing to do with that. It has to do with saving time. Several people mentioned save time in the chat, right? Whether it's save time preparing your taxes, like, hey, when I used to do it by hand, it took me 5 days. And now when I do it on TurboTax, it takes me 5 hours. Or filing, right? Instead of going to the post office, printing it, mailing it, you can just e-file. So that's a second benefit ladder. And there could be a third benefit ladder of saving money, whether it's maximizing your tax deductions or whether it's, saving money compared to a CPA. Several people mentioned that too, right? So this is what I mean by a problem space definition. And what you want to do is define the problem space for your market, your product's market category, basically, so that going into our strategy, now we can pick which benefits do we think are the best ones to bet on, right? So this is kind of the foundational work you need to do before you try to come up with your product strategy. And again, you don't need more than 2 levels is enough. Just have your cleaned up list of atomic benefits organized by the benefit ladder. Now, the model I want to share with you, my product strategy grid that leverages the Kano model, right? And I studied this when I studied lean manufacturing. And I want to share this with you because we're going to use this to help build our product strategy, right? So some of you may be familiar with the Kano model. It also talks about customer needs. On the x-axis, it talks about how fully, whatever need we're talking about, whether it's save money or save time, how fully does the product meet the need? You can think about this from 0% on the left to 100% on the right. And then on the y-axis is as a function of how much the product meets that particular need, how much user satisfaction or dissatisfaction results, right? And if this seems a little complicated, don't worry about it. The cool thing about the Kano model is it breaks down the categories into like 3 useful categories. The first is a performance benefit or feature, and it has this response curve, right? So the way to read this is, let's start at the left. The more, as we go left to right, the more the product meets the need, the more user satisfaction is created. The less the product meets the need, the less satisfaction created, right? So more is better, less is worse. If we were in the microprocessor chip business and everybody else's chips were 2 gigahertz, right, processing speed, and ours is 3 gigahertz, we'd be outperforming everybody by 1 gigahertz, right? Let's say I was shopping for a car and there were 2 cars that were pretty much similar. I liked the way they looked about the same. Their specs were pretty similar, but then all of a sudden I realized one of the cars has twice the fuel efficiency, right, miles per gallon of the other car. All other things being equal, I'd pick that car because for most people, fuel efficiency is a performance benefit or feature. So performance, more is better, less is worse. The second category is the must-have needs, okay? The way to read this is, let's start at the right. Let's assume that the product meets the must-have need 100%, right? Fully meets it. It doesn't actually make anybody happy. You see, it doesn't go into the positive part of the graph, right? It just prevents them from being unhappy. And as your product, as we move to the left, as your product fails to fully meet that need, people get more and more dissatisfied, right? Let's say I was shopping for a car. I walk into the showroom, I see a car, it looks great. I read the specs, it looks great. But then I peek my head inside and realize, wait a minute, this car doesn't have any seatbelts, right? I'd be worried about buying that car, about getting hurt or dying, right? So seatbelts are a must-have for a car, basically, right? Okay, and then last but not least, we have the delighters, right? Also called the wow features. Now, the way to read this is, if you don't have a delighter, it's fine. It doesn't cause a problem because customers aren't expecting it to be there. But if you have one, it can create a lot of positive customer value, right? Not today, but if we go back in hot tub time machine to the first cars that had GPS navigation, it was a delighter. What problem, think about what problem, back to the problem-based solution space, GPS navigation is a solution. What problem did it solve? It solved the problem of how to navigate from point A to point, how to drive from point A, from where you are to point B, basically, to some other place, right? What were the previous solutions to that? Well, paper maps, Google Maps and MapQuest, although you didn't have internet in your car, so you'd print it out and bring it with you, or you'd ask for directions. All of a sudden, GPS navigation comes along, you just put in the address of where you're going, fundamentally changes how you get from point A to point B, right? So that was a delighter and a wow. But as we know, over time, more and more cars got GPS navigation. Garmin and TomTom came out with their add-on units, and now we all just use our phones, right? So this is not a static picture, it's dynamic, so that the needs and features migrate over time, so that yesterday's delighters become today's performance benefits, become tomorrow's must-haves, right? All right, so why am I telling you about it? All you need to remember from this is, hey, there are three categories of needs. There's performance, must-have, and delighter, and we're gonna use that categorization to come up with our product strategy. So we're gonna create a simple grid. Now I've created a generic example here. And what you want to do is, for your product category, list one per row. What are the must-have benefits? What are the performance benefits? What are the delighter benefits, right? The second step you want to do is create a column for each of your key competitors and a column for your product. The next thing you want to do, and you don't want to have too many. Here I've got 2, A and B, maybe 5 or 6. You don't want to have like 20. That would be a little overwhelming. But pick your key competitors, and then you want to score them, right? And honestly, low, medium, high usually works just fine. You can use low, medium, high. What matters is that the relative performance, is comparable. And by the way, performance benefit are almost always something you can somehow quantify how much better. If you think about the examples I shared, gigahertz for a chip, right? You can quantify it. Miles per gallon for a car, you can quantify it. For must-haves and delighters, yes, no is usually adequate. So that's fine. So what this is saying is, both of our competitors have the must-have. Competitor A is the best at performance benefit 1. Competitor B is the best at performance benefit 2. They're both so-so performance benefit 3, and competitor A has delighter benefit 1. This is the backdrop upon which we want to decide our product strategy. Where do we want to try to win and play offense and be the best? And where are we going to say no, right? You can't be the best at everything. I run this workshop, hundreds of times a year. And it's funny, sometimes a team just puts high on everything. Like, that's not feasible, right? You don't have the resources, and it doesn't create a clear positioning. So given this backdrop competitive landscape, we might go with a value prop like this. Of course, we're going to have the must-have. We're going to be okay at this one. We're not going to try to be better than competitor A at performance benefit 1. We're going to say no to performance benefit 2, and we're going to try to be the best at performance benefit 3, right? The other 2 folks are medium, and we're going to be high. Maybe we've identified, a market segment that really values that benefit, or maybe we have some specific technology or solutions-based ideas how we're going to deliver more value, and then we have an idea for our own unique delighter, right? The reason we do this, the whole point of this is to come up with what are your unique differentiators. And those are, what's the performance benefit where you're going to outperform? And it's usually just 1. And that's the key. You want to make sure you have an outperform. And then if you have any unique delighters that nobody else has, that's what you basically want to have, right? So that's the whole point of coming up with this, because back to the pyramid, the next step in the product process would be, let's create an MVP, and we should make sure an MVP has the components of the special sauce. This is basically like our product special sauce, or our product strategy. Okay. Now that I've showed you this framework in a generic format, I want to apply it to a product that a lot of you are probably familiar with, Instagram, right? But not Instagram today. We have to go back in time. We need to hop in a hot tub time machine and go back to Instagram in 2010. That was their logo back in 2010. Now, when they came out in 2010, let me tell a little story. There were already several other mobile photo sharing apps in the market. But Instagram came out, and they quickly took off and became number one, right? They just dominated the market right away. And you don't see that often, but every once in a while, you see a product that just enters a crowded space and like quickly shoots up to number one. I would argue in every one of those cases, you can reverse engineer kind of the product physics of why that happened using the value proposition grid. So what I'd love to do is, as a team here, is see if we can come up with, back when they launched in 2010, what were their unique differentiators, okay? So, and you know, they've launched a lot of features since then, you know, stories and things like that. They didn't have stories back in 2010. So let's see if people can come up with, how did they outperform? And you can feel free to chat. How did they outperform or out delight the other mobile photo sharing apps when they first came out? So a couple people have said filters. That's right. I usually get filters as the first answer. That's right. When they came out, they had these amazing filters, right? That's cool. Were filters a must-have, performance, or delighter? Let's see what people say. Must-have, performance, or delighter? Delighter, yeah. It's a delighter because none of the other apps had it, so you didn't expect it. And so you probably discovered it when one of your friends shared their photos. You're like, oh man, Scott, how did you get such an amazing photo? He's like, well, I use the filters. Oh, what are these filters, right? So cool, filters. The other thing I'll say is, back to problem space, solution space. Are filters a solution or a problem? See what people say in chat. Yes, they're a solution, and that's fine. That's fine. You know, people are going to come at you with solutions. Now, what we want to do to get at the problem is just say, hey, why were filters valuable to you as an Instagram user? What was the benefit? Right? Let's bridge to the problem space using the why, the 5 whys trick. So what, as a user that used filters, why were filters useful? Why were they valuable to you? Let's see what people say in the chat. Scott said, yeah, exactly. Make my picture look nicer. People aren't good. Make my photos look pretty. Make them look cool, polished. Exactly. You can see there's slightly different ways people talk about it. But at the end of the day, it's like, make my photos look good, make them look professional, make them look unique. We'll just call it make my photos look good. Awesome. So we have our first delighter. There's something else someone else said here, a subtle thing. Latana said, the square. People loved it. So if you don't know what the square is, when you take a picture on a phone, it can be a rectangle, it can be a tall rectangle, or it can be a wide rectangle, right? Well, I remember the first time I launched it, and it was like auto cropping to a square. I was actually frustrated. I was like, who gave you the right to crop my photo, right? So why did they do that square aspect ratio? Well, it turns out that if you take a photo like this or this, the photo itself is going to look fine, but at the end of the day, you need to put all those photos into a feed so that people can consume the feed. That feed is going to have a fixed width of pixels. So what that means is these won't get shrunk, but the horizontal pictures will get shrunk. They didn't want to have different, shrink. Some pictures are shrunk, some aren't. So they said, we're going to solve this issue with a square aspect ratio. So it was a more subtle way that they made your photos look good, not each photo by itself, but the feed. Excellent. Okay, so we've got our delighters. Anything people can think about outperform. Again, this is something you can quantify. You can quantify and measure that they did better than the other apps that were out there. See if anybody have any ideas. Some people saying sharing. Well, I think some of the other apps had sharing as well. Smaller file sizes. That's interesting. You're kind of getting close to it. Or the file sizes weren't smaller, but there was something about the files that was better. Hashtags. I think other people had hashtags too. Yeah, John nailed it. Upload time. Exactly, right? So the way it worked is you would like launch the app, you'd line up your picture, you take your picture, and then it would render the picture on the screen, and you would do whatever you're going to do, filters, tags, and then you'd say upload, right? Well, basically, if you did that on Instagram, it would upload 2 or 3 seconds faster compared to all the other photo apps. Now, for those of you techies out there, you're probably wondering, wait a minute, Dan, like the megapixels on the camera is the same. The bandwidth is the same. We're all using the same Wi-Fi or 3G. Maybe they have some crazy compression. No, everyone's got the same compression. So how the heck, if it's the same file size, the same throughput, same compression, how can they upload it 2 or 3 seconds faster, right? Well, what it was a clever UX hack. It wasn't actually transferring it faster. What they did is they realized, hey, you know what? 90% of the time people upload the photos. So the second you took the photo, it would start uploading it in the background. They still showed the little upload button, right? So it would feel 2 or 3 seconds faster. That was the clever UX hack that they did to make it feel faster, right? And if you think about the number of times, the number of photos you're doing, if you save 2 or 3 seconds on each photo and you're doing 10 or 20 photos a day, that's a big time saving. So again, you see, we can quantify it. We can say, hey, the upload time for all the other apps was 6 or 7 seconds. The upload time for Instagram was like 4 or 5 seconds, right? That's what we're talking about, right? Cool. All right, so thank you very much. Everybody got all the things I was looking for. Let's create the problem space, solution space diagram. Remember, just like we did for TurboTax, here on the problem space, you have make my photos look good, supported by filters. and the square aspect ratio. So this was the delighter, basically, right? Hey, make my photos look good. And this was the performance, post my photos quickly with the photo upload UX hack, right? Now that we've got the problem space nailed, let's do the product strategy grid, okay? And we have the must-haves, performance benefits, and delighters here. We have all the other photo sharing apps, and we have Instagram. We don't even actually talk about the must-have, which is if you're a photo sharing app, what's the must-have? Well, you should let me share my photos. Everybody's got that, of course, right? On the performance benefit, we have post my photos quickly, supported by the photo upload UX hack. Everyone else is low because they're not using the hack. Instagram is high, they're faster because they are using the hack. And then on the delighter front, we have make my photos look good, supported by the filters and the square aspect ratio. The other apps aren't doing that, but Instagram is. And so we can get really clear on, hey, what was their unique differentiators? It was posting photos up quickly, right? And making my photos look good, right? So that's how I explain why when Instagram went into a crowded market, they shot up to #1. And you'll find time and again, oftentimes, that products that enter a crowded market and shoot up to #1, they have a very clear outperform plus a delighter. You know, if you have the two of those, it's a very strong combination, right? At a minimum, you need to outperform. And in some of my workshops, I talk about Uber and Airbnb, and they have similar situations where they had a clear performance but an outperform. Now, every once in a while, I get someone says, hey, Dan, this is a great story. How do I know this isn't just historical revisionism? You like, you know, kind of 20/20 hindsight doing it. Lucky for me, the person that did the UX hack gave a talk about it at a conference. And one of the key things that they shared in there, I wouldn't expect anybody to know this, is what Instagram's tagline was back in the day. And it's really cool because it's really revealing. Their tagline back in 2010 was fast, beautiful photo sharing. Now, this is just 4 words, but they are incredibly powerful. In fact, they managed to pack their whole value proposition grid, their whole product strategy into these 4 words. They have their must-have, photo sharing. We're a photo sharing app. They have their performance, fast. We're faster than any other app out there. And they have their delighter, beautiful, right? We make your photos look beautiful, more beautiful than anybody else out there, right? And so that's the other advantage of having a very clear product strategy, is it can get that clarity both internally for the teams. Hey, what are we doing to be faster in the future? What are we doing to, you know, make things more beautiful in the future? What are we doing for sharing in the future? You know, so it's very helpful. It's a very powerful tool. Cool. So I just want to thank everybody. Hopefully you can apply this to your product strategy. Again, start out by exploring the problem space, try to organize it and define it, and then categorize them as must-have, performance, and delighters, and, you know, put them against, score your competitors and put them in a product strategy grid. I also want to let people know I run a lean product meetup. Actually, Product Board is a sponsor. We founded it in 2014. We have over 10,000 members, and each month I host a top product speaker. I know we've got some great speakers at today's event, so encourage people to check it out. Also, if you like some of these ideas, every once in a while I do a public workshop. I'm doing one in November. You can go to bit.ly/Dan-work, and early bird pricing is available. So with that, I definitely wanted to make sure we leave time for questions. And if you want, you can, you know, get a copy of my slides. You can just hold your phone up or go to that URL. And with that, if you want to put your questions in the Q&A, we'll be happy to answer them for you.
That's awesome. Thank you, Dan, I know you squeezed literally what usually is an all-day thing into a tight half an hour. So
well,
really appreciate it.
I had a 30-minute slot, so I know I was going a little faster than normal, but I wanted to make sure we had time for Q&A and we got through it all. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. One question I do have just before we wait for some people to answer, kind of throw any kind of Q&A that they've got on this topic, is I know there's a lot of confusion around strategy. You know, what is strategy in fact? You know, what is an objective versus a goal versus I think we use a lot of these words interchangeably in product, and people kind of trip over on that. I guess what I'm kind of curious about is like, what's your mental model on that? You know, to come back to that strategy triangle, or is there another kind of perspective you like to take on that I think could help clear the air?
I'm with you, Scott. You know, people get and you read 5 different books on strategy, you get 5 different opinions, right? This visualization right here, this is my clearest definition of what strategy is. You're articulating in the problem space, what are the customer benefits? You're going after a market category, right? Your strategy is within a category. Within that category, there are a set of benefits, right, that can be delivered to customers, must-haves, performance, and delighters. There are competitors that are at a certain level of performance against each of those. And then your job, your product strategy is like, where are you going to fight? How are you going to be the best? That's what product strategy is. How are we going to be the best? And one of my other favorite definition of strategy, I didn't have time. In hindsight, I did have time. I always throw up a Steve Jobs quote where he says, saying no to 1,000 things, basically, right? My best definition of strategy means saying no. And I like to pick fun on our enterprise sales friends, right? When our enterprise sales friends go out to Google and Google says, hey, is your new product going to have feature A? What do they say? They say, yeah, I just signed the $5 million contract. Hey guys, we got to build a feature, right? I just signed the $5 million contract, right? And then, the next salesperson, right, just to make fun, they say yes to everything, right? That's not being strategic. Like, you need to pick your battles, and saying no is one of the best things. So we want to get clarity on what are we going to be the best at in the marketplace. That's what it's really all about, so that that informs our product roadmap, basically.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. We got one question here of what is the relation between strategy and probably vision, right?
Yes. So I think I want to build on something you said, Scott. Oftentimes we have way too many terms for similar things, and it does not serve us well, right? Vision, mission, strategy, objectives, goals, right? So I know some places are very specific, like here's a value statement, here's a mission, here's a strategy. I think they're very similar, right? The one thing I will say is there's product strategy, which is the focus of my talk, and there's also business strategy, right? And so when I think about vision, perhaps vision is just like a broader articulation of, like, why does your company exist? Like, what's the overall mission or goal of your company, right? Obviously, your product strategy should align with that. But a lot of times the thing about a vision is it's often too high level to be actionable, for teams. So it's nice to know what that is. Like, it's like Google, organize the world's information. Okay, that's cool. But if I'm on a specific team, that might be too high level, right? So I want to figure out, for my product Gmail or for my product Google Drive, what's our product strategy? How are we going to contribute to the overall vision of the company, right?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Just want to give a little plug too for your Lean Product, Lean UX, meetup. That event has moved completely virtual this past year, obviously with COVID and stuff like that. And I know, it's got some fantastic speakers, a great catalog of prior talks as well that you can access online. We also do give away tickets monthly for those talks. So you can keep an eye out if anybody's in the product makers community for, draws that we're doing on that side. I don't know, I guess with that, I'm not sure there's any more questions here by the looks of it. Anybody's got any kind of things?
I see, it looks like Andrew's got one.
Okay, sure.
So Dustin asked, who did the talk on Instagram? I don't know. It was one of the designers. So if you Google it, I'm sure you can find it. And then Andrew said, what, but the how strategy? No, I actually don't think so. That's an interesting thing. I think we need to start out with like, it's really the why is what I would call it. Like, why, how do we, like, why do we think we can win? How are we going to win from a benefit standpoint? Right. And, there is a give and take. If you come up with this product strategy, but then you go to your team and you have no idea how you're going to be the best performance benefit 3, let's say that's photo upload time, right? We can tie these two together and say, hey guys, we want to have the fastest upload. Great. Sounds awesome. We're going to be faster than everybody else. Okay. What do we got? Nothing. That's not going to work out. Right. You need to come up with a strategy, and there's an interplay with, okay, what can we do to deliver? What is our solution space? But you want to start in the problem space before you get to the solution space, and there's a give and take between the two and a back and forth. But, at the end of the day, obviously you need to deliver on the solution space, a solution that actually achieves the benefit that you're trying to do, whether it's the filters, or the faster upload.
Yeah, cool. I'm going to ask one last question because we only got 2 minutes left. I'm going to take the best advice for the new PM one, and have any suggestions or ideas you want to share there.
Gosh, yeah. Well, a couple things. One is just, just be a sponge and listen, and most people do that. Every once in a while you get a new PM who's so eager, they come in hot. They're like, no, we're going to do it this way, right? That's not a good way to start out. You want to listen for a little bit. The other thing is, it's the one time in your PM career when your calendar has not yet filled up and looks like Tetris with a bazillion meetings, and you have to decide which of these 3 meetings am I going to go to in this time slot. So take advantage of that to build the relationships, right? You can totally say, hey, I'm the new kid on the block. Can I just do a virtual coffee with you to understand what you do on the engineering team, what you do on the marketing team, what you do on the design team, right? So that is a unique time to build those relationships, because you may not need them right then, but in 2 or 3 months, when you're working on a feature that involves marketing or design or whatever, you will build those relationships. And instead of it being like, who's this random person pinging me? They'll be like, oh yeah, that's Dan. I had a coffee with him when he was a newbie PM when he first came in. So it's a unique time to listen and to build those relationships. And then the last thing I would say is you need to prioritize and pick your battles, right? I also just counsel one of my clients is a new PM. He came in kind of hot. He's senior PM, very talented. He kind of had every right to potentially come in hot. He was all excited, like, we're doing this all wrong. I'm going to go push the team. Like, just think about, like, maybe we just we don't fall on our sword for this one because it's already mid sprint. They're already coding it. Why don't we get like 2 sprints ahead? Pick a battle that's 2 or 3 sprints out and fight that battle. Like don't churn the team in the middle of a sprint.
Yeah, that's cool. Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time again today. Share your thoughts, ideas, and wisdom. I really appreciate it. And again, encourage people, if you're looking for some help with Dan's stuff, he's got lots of great talks, lots of great sessions and great workshops. And definitely check out his book. I think it's, what is it, the 20th edition now, Dan? I think he's been around for so long.
No, it's unfortunately it's still the first. It's been around 6
years.
It's still the first. It's just the first edition.
Yeah,
I'll put some links in the chat
book
to make it easy.
Yeah,
thanks, man.
That's cool.
Appreciate
Excellent. Thanks again. And as a reminder too, if you found today helpful, we also have another great event coming up in October on how to run product at scale, which is our Product Excellence Summit here at Product Board, and encourage you to check that out as well. There's information as well on the Product Makers community for that.